I'm going to design a small business postcard for a dentist in Connecticut today. I'm going to do it from scratch, and I'm going to do it at the highest level possible. I'm talking Michelin star level design and create the most beautiful postcard that I possibly can, and you can just watch over my shoulder. If you're a graphic designer, if you are a marketer, if you are a small business owner, you're going to love this. Let's go. I had a dentist inquire. I think he saw one of my YouTube videos and he's like, Jake, I have a postcard. I need something that looks like this and is more professional. So one of our reps, one of my minions talked to him, set him up with one of our designers. And then I looked at the design that we came up with and it was just so much information. It was too much, which is a challenge when you have a lot of information. This is common with small business owners. They want to put everything under the sun. It is a super challenge for even good graphic designers. And if you're not a great designer, when you try to put lots of information on a postcard, it's almost impossible to do it right. It's virtually impossible without good design skills. And if you're a good designer, you will still struggle really, really hard. One of our guys here that was working on it was just struggling bad. So I stepped in and said, hey, look, let me design this on YouTube and I'll do it. I'll give it my all. I'll put 100% in, which I don't get to do a lot anymore. So here's the postcard that we initially drafted up. And they sent this to the dentist and he said he liked it. He just wanted to add more information to it. I saw this and I'm like, oh my God. I go, this is a lot. The stock images here are kind of weird and the dentist wants it. You know, he doesn't ask the patients for pictures and stuff. Not most people don't. And if you're not into marketing or you're not aware of that, that's a thing. Like, you use stock images, use the highest quality images that you can because you don't always have these great images to work with. And a good image can make all the difference with postcards. I'm not a fan of the teeth right there. I think it looks terrifying to me. And a lot of people have anxiety over dentists. So anything that looks like scary, you want to stay away from. I also don't like when you look at a lot of dentist postcards, you'll see the pics and stuff and their mouths are cranked open. You see that all the time. I think that's bad imagery for a dentist. You're scaring a person. Like, even if the person is smiling, no one is smiling when they have a pic stuck in your gum or whatever. And everyone's cranking open your mouth and shoving these tools right in there, looking at you. Like, no, it's a totally unrealistic thing. I think to dentists, that's every day for them. So they think that's normal, but it's not fun. Like, going to the dentist is not fun. And you want to show the after smiles and stuff, which is good. I think that we did a good job with smiles and not toothpicks crammed in but these are so generic pictures. They're just super generic pictures. This is a totally fine, like $200 design, but I'm going to be doing a top level, something that someone would spend $1,000 plus on. So that's not going to cut it on here. It's going to take a lot more effort. There is no hierarchy here. That's the real big problem when you have a ton of information or even a small amount of information. But when you have a ton of information, not having any hierarchy, it is bad because your eyes have to be able to be told, like, see what's important first and then work its way down to the call to action. You want to make sure these things are in a pattern that you can take their eyes through a certain pattern, make sure that they're seeing what you want to be seen first, what you want to be seen last. You want to hook people and you want to get them to the call to action, and then they'll start scanning around for the other stuff. There's also a lot like these web icons and stuff. That's something that a lot of designers struggle with. Even if they're good, a lot of designers have been brought up today on web design. So things, they use badges and they use icons and they use these web shapes and textures, and everything kind of has this web feel to it because they're just used to making things for the web. Print is a little different. I don't tend to use web elements for print. The dentist specifically wanted a strip of coupons with these different deals on here. I'm not a huge fan of like the $4,500 cleaning, only $4,500. I don't think that's a great thing to put on there, but that's what the dentist wants. That's fine. We can work around that. The exam and x-ray is really good. That $50 exam and x-ray thing is good. So I'm looking here for things that are kind of really good that we want to highlight. The dental cleaning is $100. That's pretty good. The implant, I don't know. I've never had a tooth implant, so I don't know if that's like a crazy good deal. Maybe that's an insanely good deal. Not sure, but we have to use it because it's what the dentist wants. Then we have this like copy of how great the dentist is. Emergency care. I'm noticing that there's some emergency care that should probably be highlighted somewhere. I don't totally get the little cross elements. The quality at the best price is so generic. Those kind of words are just really generic. Amateur marketers will use these kind of phrases a lot, but at the top level, you don't want to use those things because they're just generic. They're really generic. I think there was a back too. Yeah, here was the back. This piece is a little more designed, better, kind of. Man, it's got this terrifying freaking jaw like that picture. It's terrifying. The freaking chopper or whatever. The denture, is that a denture? The lips kind of works. I don't know. It stands out. A picture of the happy kid and stuff. And this tooth. I don't know. The tooth thing with the sculpture is a little weird. But then we have all this. We have a coupon strip that looks better on the right. Generic headline at the top. We have a subhead, so these are okay. Like, the guy that's doing this design on my team is actually really good. He's a really good designer, but this is just overloading. I think he just didn't know what to do with all this stuff on there, which is totally understandable. The hours, I don't know why they're taking up so much space. This huge QR code. That QR code is huge, but it's not visible. Because so much is fighting for attention, everything is fighting for attention here. The size of it doesn't stand out. It literally doesn't stand out. It took me a while to be able to even see that QR code. It did not stand out at all because everything else is fighting for attention. And the things that are kind of on the left and the upper left, like the lips and that big jaw looking thing or whatever the device is taking so much of your attention. Then you have these hours, then these blocks that are, and those hours aren't even attractive hours. Like, they're actually pretty bad hours. I later found out that these hours were better. Graphic design really should be it should be super functional. You have to be able to bring out the most important things. Think of it as a marketer. Those hours are not that great. So we don't want to draw a lot of attention to those hours because they're not great. The designer may not see that. They're not thinking of whether these are good hours or not. They're not thinking if this headline is good or not. They're just trying to make it look good. So when you have marketing thought mixed in with design, you end up with a much greater quality piece. I wrote this big long thing. I put arrows on everything, and I think that just overwhelmed him more. And we have this. I said to make some things bigger, some things not. I realized that he had in his design brief, he did same day crowns. I thought that was a big thing. I said amplify that more. You got to use a little bit better pictures. I don't want these scary, terrifying jaws and these lips hanging around there. Make the headline bigger. The doctor also said that he wanted all the insurances that they take on there, listed on there, so we're throwing even more. And he wanted this big machine. The dentist also wanted this machine. It's called, I don't know if I'm saying it right, the CEREC machine. I think it just makes the crowns in a day. It's a big thing to them. And also it's in Spanish. Okay, so he needed it also in Spanish. So I guess this is mailing to a heavy Spanish population. So I said, maybe let's put everything on one side of the card and then we'll do the other side in Spanish. You know, if there's a heavy Spanish speaking population, just do one whole side in Spanish, one side in English, and then you can use the same design. But that forces us to put even more stuff on one side. It's still just so much information. There's so much. I couldn't even see the headline. I was trying to see the headline and I couldn't visually see it because even though it's huge, because everything else is still, now we have this machine. I do not know what that machine is. I mean, I kind of now do, but I'm looking at this from the recipient at like this machine. It looked like a bread machine, I think Kirkier said. And then I thought something too, like this is going to a heavy Spanish population. Why do we have white people on here? Like, why are these the whitest of white people on here? I think we should probably put some Spanish people on there, or or something. I want to see a white person. I don't think we should put a white person. I don't want to see any white people on here. No whites. Have your target audience in mind. That's really important. Who is this going to? And you want the images to reflect the people that it's going to. If you're going to be going to Spanish-speaking people, you probably want to put a Hispanic-looking person on there. It will help. We start with a blank slate. I'm going to use Adobe InDesign to do this, but you could do it in Canva, totally fine. You could use, I would say Photoshop or Canva would be totally fine if you're not familiar with InDesign. We start with a blank slate. The first thing I do is look at stock images. So we need some good images. I put Spanish dentist into Shutterstock. Could have put Hispanic. And I'm looking for pictures. I kind of like the girl taking the selfie. I like that. And I also liked this one here, which was this kind of younger girl and then a middle-aged lady. I like this picture. I liked this, and I like the girl with the selfie. Color choice is really important. I just went with a blue. I probably could have gone with a lighter blue, but I just picked this blue. I arbitrarily just picked this on the color palette. I know we're going to do a coupon strip, so I threw an element down at the bottom. I generally work with a grid system roughly of 1/3, 2/3, and 1/3. That's typically what I like to use because I'm going to use something at the bottom, something at the top, and images across the center. I know there's going to be a coupon strip there, so I've got to put some space available there, about 1/3. Then I threw a headline with "Your best smile starts here." Pretty good headline. We're talking about smiles. We're talking about there's this. He obviously has this big thing with crowns and same-day crowns. Fixing smiles. That's a good thing to work with here. Put the images on here. I just separated the background. Don't worry about these watermarks. You will typically use a watermarked image because you want to show the client the picture before they buy the stock image. Stock images cost $10 to $20. It's common to charge the client for that, but you want to make sure that they like what you have before you actually purchase it. Now, here's a little hack. This is a super gold nugget. If you see a image that you like, you can put it into ChatGPT and say, "Can you regenerate this?" And it will regenerate a similar image without a watermark. It's a super design hack. Sometimes they look better, sometimes they don't. AI is getting really good, so it's pretty impressive, and I use that on here. What I did was switch it to this. This is the original. And ChatGPT made it this. It's just, I think it removes the watermark, which saves a little bit of money, but really I think this looks better. So I'm going to go with this, but it's an ultra super hack. So we throw these on here. I know that we're going to use about 2/3. So we're taking 2/3 of this space and about 2/3 of the left to right space. Plop those images on here. Doesn't look like much yet, but it's going to get there. Middle-aged lady, she's not white. The assistants are all happy. She's taking a picture. You're taking them to the promised land. You're taking them to what they're going to look like after. You want them to take them to the result. Because of this here at the end, the headline, I don't like how the image is cranked up against that, and I didn't want to shrink it. I wanted to kind of keep these two images the same size. So I just rounded the edge. I just put rounded edges on that to allow for the headline to not be cut off like that. There's a lot of times I do use overlapping, but on headlines, you don't really want to hide a headline. I've also overlapped the girl you can see her on her left arm. It's overlapping the other image. That's fine. Overlapping is good when used properly. It gives things layers and depth, and I am huge on layers and depth. That is like a huge thing for me. I think that's a key thing that makes a really top shelf small business postcard designer is their designs will have layers and depth. They'll look almost 3D, very high-end, polished. I chose the font. Font choice is incredibly important here, and I went with Museo Sans, which is a nice little rounded sans serif font, so it doesn't have the little fancy things on the edges. Just a clean, nice font. I spent a while going through different fonts, but I stuck with Museo Sans here. Then I add a darker blue strip across the middle just to kind of give it more depth, more contrast. Bring out the girl. I really want to bring out the girl on the left. That's what I want, like the main focus point, the main visual. I need them to see that headline and the girl. We can't have this design looking cluttered, and we have a lot of information, so I'm going to have to be really creative with putting it on the rest of the card, but I know I cannot sacrifice that hook. I can't take that big visual hook. I need them to see the headline at the top left, and I need them to see those images. Really important. I can't take away space. I felt like the headline is secondary to the girl on the bottom. So what I did was added a drop shadow. I do this a lot, not every time, but I added a drop shadow to the headline just to make that stand out more. That's a small, subtle detail, but it makes a huge difference. You see the headline more when it's got that drop shadow on it, and I need that headline to be really, really up there with that girl. Ideally you see the headline first and then you see the girl. That's really what we want to make sure happens. We don't want that headline to get squashed. Because this is so blue, there's so much blue in here, I have to get some white in there to just give it some contrast. It's hard when they're with dentists and blue, you don't have a lot of choices to use a third color that'll stand out, that'll brighten things up, because you can't really throw yellow and you can't throw red in here. You have to be really careful with that, because a dentist thing is just like blue and whites and peaceful, and you don't want to throw in these reds and stuff that are going to just change that. So you got to use white really strategically. So I take out some of that blue and I add a shape here, which just looks like this. I love InDesign for this purpose. I use Canva a ton now, but Canva doesn't have good drawing tools. You can't draw shapes. And I personally love just drawing shapes. They're just random shapes that I think are a good shape. I love that about InDesign that I can't do in Canva. Whatever. So I draw this like curvy shape. It needs to have some curves. I love curves and angles. And I put this here. This looks a little weird here, but you'll see how it looks better in a second. I've got layers. This is starting to come together, and I know I'm going to need this white space at the right to put all this fine detail in. We have to keep the left really clutter-free, easy. It's got to hook people. The right will have all the details, but I'm going to need a shape in here that's going to fix all the sloppiness on the right. I draw this kind of like an arrow. I just draw it down and then put an angle in there. I like curves and angles together, mostly angles. This is going to be where I'm going to put all the fine details. All that stuff is going to have to get squashed into here. This is starting to look really good. You could almost, it's not finished, but you could almost complete it here in just a couple steps. No matter what business you're going with, you could really use this kind of format and just swap things around. But we have to make it professional. We have to make it to the highest level possible. So we are going to add a lot of details, make this thing just look incredible. I added a small stroke. You can see a little blue stroke on the left of the white shape. And I added a drop shadow to further increase the layers. So this postcard is starting to look, it has lots of layers to it, layers and depth. That looks good. Now we have to put our coupon strip in. He's got 4 coupons. So I had 4 dotted, you can use dash lines or dotted. I like dotted, but really doesn't matter. Nice, clean, aligned 4 coupons. We'll throw the actual coupons in here, and I'm leaving some space at the bottom because I know there's going to be fine print. I didn't know at the time what the fine print would need to be. If it's limited to a certain time or have certain disclaimers or anything, we'll leave space for that. We can even bring them down a little bit more. We don't want to crank things right to the edge because this postcard, it has what's called bleed. And when we print it, it's got to have room to cut, to trim off like a cookie cutter so that the edge can be kind of trimmed off and that the color goes all the way to the end. If you put your text or elements too close, one, I think that looks bad. You want to leave breathing room, but also the things will get cut off. You put text up near the edge, it'll get clipped off. So leave some space. Next, I added another shape, a further layer. We're making a lot of layers to this. You have to do things in a way that's going to impress them. This is different than what they would teach you in design school. Small business owner is their budgets are tight. They often have a ton of information. They're not willing to spend their hard-earned money on something that doesn't have a lot of information on it. So you have to kind of make it in a certain way that pleases the business owner. I got this in the mail the other day. This is from the Children's Place. This is the postcard. They probably spent, they probably have a huge creative design marketing team and spend hours and days and months working on this piece. And it's really just it's fine design wise. I mean, it's an image, and then you have the little stuff here. You can barely see this at the bottom left, which is, I'm sure, on purpose. It says valid July 17th through August. This is something that they probably spent months on and spent $50,000 on just this design. If you charge a small business owner $50,000 to send this out, they would be pissed. So you have to kind of give them a certain level of, wow, this is incredible, which just makes it harder for the designer to also please the client while keeping things organized and dealing with lots of information. So I'm making this look also super pleasant to look at as well. That's something I really want to keep in mind. I added this other element, which is this pointy element. It's just literally like an arrow. I put a very soft gradient on it, just to add another layer. I know that we have this whole right edge of the postcard to stuff our details in, so I can kind of put a bunch of stuff in there as long as I'm keeping the left side of it really clear. I have to keep looking back to the left side and make sure I'm not complicating things and that is still standing out the most. The call to action goes here. I also kept that little curve behind the girl's hair. I just think that adds another element of depth. I do everything on purpose. That's a hallmark of a top professional designer versus an amateur designer. Amateur designers will just put shapes for no reason. They'll put things for no reason. They'll move things for no reason. They'll go out of alignment because they think something looks better somewhere instead of keeping things aligned. That little shape above her head, I spent some time thinking, I said, I think this just looks, it was too flat. If I filled it in, it was just too flat, and keeping that there just brightened it up a little bit, added a little more contrast without adding another color. And I think that was good, so I kept it there. Here we put the call to action at the bottom right. It's very important to not make that call to action too big. You don't want to make this huge call to action. Buy now, call now. Businesses always want to make these things huge, and designers do too. They want to make these things so big because they want them to stand out, but no one cares about that yet. You hook them first, let them scan through everything, and then easily find what to do next. In the bottom right, that's usually where you're going to put it. You want to make it big enough, but you don't want to draw super attention to that, or else they'll see that before they see the other stuff. You don't want them jumping to see your call now thing because they're not sold yet. You haven't totally sold them yet. You're wasting space by taking all that information to the call to action. So we just put that at the bottom right. Call today for a free consultation. Through the indicia on top right. Pretty standard. I could make that smaller too. And financing available. That was a big thing, that he has financing. I noticed that from, I think, either the design brief or just the old postcard that he had. It said financing. It's a pretty big thing. Like, you want to make sure that that is visible because you are probably dealing with people that can't spend $4,500 or $1,000, but they got bad smiles. You know, I'm thinking of that target audience. This is not going to upper class white America. This is going to, I looked up the place too. It's kind of in the hood. We want to really hit home that financing. You know, that's going to be a big thing. That's actually a big thing for anyone, really. You could hit middle class with that too, totally. We have this financing available, which I think is taking a little bit more attention. We wanted to have attention, but not too much attention. Pro level stuff here. I'm using a different font. I'm using a serif font on this one, so it complements the big sans serif fonts. But how do we actually get this thing to take more attention but not take too much attention? So I went into Adobe Color because I'm going to have to use color to do that. Adobe Color is great, adobecolor.com or adobe.color.com or something. You can look at what colors will go with things, but there's different patterns to do that. I didn't want to use a color that's going to stand out too much. I want to use color behind it to draw the attention to that, because this is a really important thing, but we can't take too much attention. I can't use a yellow. I can't use a red. That's going to stand out way too much. Normally you would do that, but not in a dentist thing. So normally in most designs, you'd have a color, you'd have a base color, a color that's close to it on the color wheel, one that's like a shade or two off of it so that they're close, and then you have a accent color. You have a complementing color that's on the other side of the color wheel. So for blue, that would be orange. But on here, on a doctor's, you can't really do that. Green is going to look a little too weird. You could probably go with a green, but it's dentist stuff. You don't want green. That green means like bacteria and gross. Red's blood. You don't have, yellow is just going to draw so much attention. So I use Adobe Color to kind of pick a color. On the other side, if you use split complementary, or this is a more technical video, so I don't mind talking about it. If you split complementary, that's good because that uses the opposite color, but then the adjoining colors. If you have an opposing color, a complementary color, that's going to be a huge amount of contrast. And when you don't want that big contrast, you use split complementary, which goes directly across the color wheel, but then a shade or two off of that. And in this case, I found this little tan color, which I think is perfect. Once I bring images in, I want to make sure that the color scheme includes the images, because images are so much big part of the design. I need to include those images too. So in this case, we have the lady has darker skin. We have a girl with darker hair. We have these peach tones, these mocha tones. We want to make sure that those things are included in with the blues so that your color harmony all includes the images too. A lot of designers, they won't factor in the images. They'll only factor in the design elements. Then you have these images and things start clashing. So I like to go in Adobe Color and just upload the whole picture, and then it'll pick colors that work with the whole picture. I like that tan color, so I put that here. Now this color works because it's complementing the blues, but it's also working with these skin tones. Stands out without standing out too much. There's a lot of thought into this. This is a lot of process that works in here that you'll only find at higher level design. They use Care Credit, so I threw that logo in there, which adds a little bit of splash of color with the green without even really taking any attention from it. It looks like it's pro. It looks like it's not like their own in-house, like buy here, pay here type financing, but more like a professional. They use Care Credit. Then their logo, I changed it up a little bit. I told them I'd change the company name and phone number, but it's really close. And their logo are these colors. It's this dark gold color, but I didn't want to make the whole postcard that. So because we're not drawing a ton of focus on the logo, we can use these other colors, which is fine. The logo's up here, gets a lot of attention, but it's not anything that's like hogging attention. Here's that machine. I got to deal with this Cerac machine that makes crowns in a day. Big thing for the dentist. It's important for the dentist. How do I throw this machine in here without it taking too much attention and people wondering, what is this? Why is this big thing here? Am I going in this machine? That's kind of what I thought it was first. I thought it was like an MRI looking thing where you go in and maybe it implants the tooth or something. I don't know what, you stick your head in there. I believe it's a thing that makes a crown in a day. So we want to make sure that this gets attention without too much attention. I put it here, and I did put I forgot to mention the shape that I put in here with the arrow. I wanted that arrow because I like angled shapes, but I also wanted to draw people's attention back. The arrow will send them back to the left of the card. So that was done on purpose. Everything done on purpose. The machine I'm going to use right there. I don't have a place to put it that it's not going to take too much attention. Now, because the more I read about this machine, I looked it up because I had to find this picture. It's pretty impressive. It's like a 1 hour, one day thing, like, which would normally probably take weeks. It's like a lab that's right there that makes these teeth, the crown tooth. I would have liked to actually have put that into this dark blue area and make that a highlight of the design, but he had a QR code with a scan here that was part of the call to action, and I wanted to reserve this dark space, this dark element for the QR code. I put it in this spot where the point is, so it's there but not taking up too much attention. I put most insurances accepted. That way I didn't have to put all the different logos. So hopefully the dentist was okay with it, and I think he was. It just covers, okay, most insurances accepted. With some people, they have like the really crappy insurances, and they're not sure. A lot of dentists won't take them. This way, this shows most accepted without having to throw every single logo. We could, but it will start cluttering things up. So I just added another layer. You can see this is another layered item. This is a lot of layers. Same day crowns for the crown machine. You will see that this gets hidden. This is a really good advantage and benefit. Features, advantages, and benefits. This is a really good one because most dentist offices probably don't have this. This is a pretty good selling feature, but you can't read the same day crowns very well. So we throw a drop shadow on it and it makes it readable. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. I would have really liked to have put this over here on that dark space. That would have been really ideal. And maybe the dentist would want to switch it to that. I'm not really sure. I like this layout right here personally, because that machine instantly know now, oh, that machine makes the crowns. Same day crowns. This is good. Throws a ton of attention in here without hogging it from the upper left. I really like how this looks, but we had the QR code to deal with, so I kept it in the middle and threw the QR code over here. This will be up to the dentist to see what he wants to do. I made the QR code. I made that in Unicode. I use Unicode. Link for that is below. That's a trackable QR code. Customizable. I use the colors from the artwork. You can see how many people scan it. You can redirect it somewhere else if you want. If you wanted to super draw attention to the call to action, this is where you would use a true complementary color. Which would be a really bright yellow or a red. Red would probably not be the best choice in here. It would be yellow. If you threw an arrow, just for example purposes, you would draw a ton of attention from someone's eye to this QR code. You draw a ton of it. Instantly, takes your eye right there. In a lot of designs, this is fine, but in here, it's not. You don't need it. It doesn't need to draw that much attention, but use those little very small accent colors sparingly, and they work like magic. They will draw your attention so well to something. In here, we just don't need that because we're already visually taking them where they need to go. But I did want to put the dentist on here. I looked him up, and he had a nice picture. And that just conveys trust. I just want to add trust. If you don't have that on here, looks good, but it can look really corporate-y and like you don't know who's behind this. Is this just a no-name place? You know, this adds a lot of like personality to it and trustworthiness. And this looks like a good guy. If they have a good picture, this is across the board for almost every postcard design. If you can put the owners on there, it will be really good. As long as they're photogenic. I put the hours condensed down to 95 weekdays because he said it's 9 to 5. I'm pretty sure I just put weekdays. That way we're only using 3 short words really to cover instead of 10 different icons and tons of different text. We just simplified it down to that. And I really like the 24/7 emergency care. This is a big, huge advantage. This is like a crazy big advantage. Same with financing and the same day crowns. All this stuff is really great advantages, but we have to keep in mind, we are not trying to take attention away. It doesn't need to be. We can't take attention to everything. We can't highlight every single thing. Poor designers or amateur designers will try to highlight all of this. They will throw red highlights. They'll put little icons. They'll put little arrows. They'll try to draw attention to all this. They'll say, but the 24/7 is really important. The 95 weekday is really important. The same day crowns are important. You have to pick and choose what's going to be the biggest on the hierarchy. And these are all important. They'll find it. You hooked them, they'll find all this stuff. Trust me, they don't need a big red arrow on every little thing to find it. They'll find it. Google reviews. I usually try to throw this in there, the Google logo, which adds a nice little pop of color without it drawing too much attention. People recognize Google. They have 150 plus reviews. I went through the reviews. It's 4.5 stars. Great reviews. Adds a ton of credibility. And I really liked this little sub headline thing of "We Fix Smiles." I just thought it. I said, you know what? This is about fixing people's smiles. They got janked up teeth. They need these things fixed. You have the room. In this case, we have the room to draw some attention to something. And that's what I want them to see in this upper right white box area. I have a little space to the right of the clear aligners coupon. The space right there, you could leave that alone. Negative space is totally fine there, but I wanted to just add a little more personality, nice, comforting. So I threw this little tooth icon I got off Canva and just downloaded it and brought it into InDesign. This little happy tooth guy. This is starting to look really good. I think this is done. Yeah, this is done. This is completely done. This is a top-level pro postcard. I probably spent 8 hours on this thing, from researching, from changing different colors and font selection and all the little details stuff. You know, every step along the way here, I probably did 5 or 6 versions of each step to get there. It's a lot of thought. It's a lot of going back to things, checking things, stepping away, coming back later, and noticing that what you're working on is not looking good. So it takes time. This is something you can't just hack together. A lot of thought, a lot of focus, a lot of energy on this, but you come up with this really beautiful design here. Oh, there was one thing I did too. Where is it? Right here. I was not totally thrilled with the same day crowns because it was a little hard to read, and I really wanted people to read that. So I just put a gradient at the bottom. If you see here, she has a gradient on her, and that brings out that same day crowns. And I stepped away for a while and came back, and I didn't feel like that was taking up too much attention while it's still making it really readable. So that worked good. This is done. This is totally done. I hope that really helps. Here's some other things to note. Could be changes, just so you can see little changes. You could rotate that middle one. That was something I thought of as rotating. If you wanted to make something even more layered and more unique, you could just rotate that middle image right here. That gives it a different look. You could take it away and add text in there. You really don't have to have that middle image. Here's how it looks without that middle image, and leaving you a lot of space to put a few more bullet points. You could put 3 or 4 more bullet points, or something that you really want people to see would totally work here. You could take that blue strip away on the inside, and now you have a really bright looking card, still with room to use in the middle. It's a different look. It's very clean, very clinical. This would totally work too. Besides the dark blue color, you could also use that tan color from the financing available. You could use that in here, and that could even work. Especially if that kind of meshed with the company's colors or something, you could totally use this. It's a very pleasant image to look at. And here is a drastic, I would never use this, but here's how you could just change the look of something and throw this magenta or this purple color. It changes the entire look of the card, just to show you what just changing colors can do. Last thing would be here's a subtle difference, is taking out any shadows. So here we have drop shadows strategically used. I'm a big fan of drop shadows to add layering and depth. If we take all the shadows off, you'll see that they're all off here. Makes it way more. There's still layers and there's some depth because of these shapes that are overlapping everything, but it's hard to read. It's hard to separate things. And now when we have the drop shadows, look how easily readable so much of that is. The same day crowns are so much more readable. The elements, the shapes pop out more. The headline, look at how much that headline changes when you throw that drop shadow in. And even sheep pops out more too when you apply that soft drop shadow to it. Taking away that one shape where you just had white on it, it works, but you can see how that added shape right here just adds a lot more contrast and interesting without taking up too much space. All this stuff is really high level thought out. I think vast majority of designers would struggle really hard to work with that much information, but this is what it looks like at the top levels. This is the very top level of small business postcard design. So let me know what you think, and if you learned something, I hope you do. I hope you make some beautiful postcards for your small business, or you can hit us up. Hit me up. My contact information is all below. I have the cheapest printing in the nation. You can't find better printing for every door direct mail or targeting, or even things like business cards and flyers and brochures and signage, banners. You really can't find anywhere better. If you have any questions, please ask. And if you enjoyed this, please make a comment if you'd like to see more. I just want to see you make a little ATM machine postcard for yourself.